What's going on, guys? This is Rob, and we are back with Iron Man from Christopher Cantwell, and we are covering this point where basically Iron Man has essentially become God, right? Where he's basically got the powers of Galactus and seemingly the power cosmic in its totality. And the result of this is, of course, a little bit of time has passed in the sense that you have like War Machine, right? You got James Rhodes, you got the original Human Torch, Patsy Walker, and all those folks back on Earth, and they're kind of having a conversation. Now, I don't know exactly what it is that they're eating, but I will say the place around them looks pretty crowded. And if you're a person who loves food and you are looking to just escape the overcrowded nature of restaurants, then HelloFresh is absolutely for you. So what is HelloFresh? Well, with HelloFresh, you can get mouth-watering seasonal recipes and fresh pre-measured ingredients delivered right to your door with HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. And HelloFresh makes cooking at home fun, easy, and affordable. And this is important to me because I'm a busy guy. I've got social media platforms to run. I've got a business and a staff to manage. I've got a podcast network that I'm launching. What I don't want to have to do on top of all of that is worry about what I'm going to eat for the week. And so HelloFresh makes that infinitely easier. I tell them what I want, they send it to me, I take my ingredients and I cook them. No muss, no fuss. It's literally the easiest thing in the world. So make sure you look in the description and use my link, or go to HelloFresh.com and use code POGCOMIC16 for up to 16 free meals plus 3 surprise gifts across 6 HelloFresh boxes plus free shipping. And these 3 surprise gifts, just so you know, they're free appetizers, free desserts, and free premium recipes. But having said that, let's get back into our video. So one of the things that is easy to, I wouldn't say misinterpret, but easy to forget when it comes to the various cosmic beings that exist out there in Marvel Comics is the nature of time. That time is relative to cosmic abstracts. And in fact, with the exception of people like Galactus and Infinity, because she represents the nature of it, time doesn't really matter to the cosmic entities. The cosmic entities appearing in the year 1900 is really no different than them appearing in the year 2000, right? Because for them, things just simply exist, right? I mean, there is a point whereby the universe will begin and the universe will end, but Marvel never really gives us this idea that cosmic entities really care about the concept of time. And for someone like Tony Stark, right, when he had undergone the process of experiencing what it meant to undertake the power cosmic, to have that power given to him, and then go through the whole process of being imbued with it, that time had passed, but we were never really given how much time had passed, because that's designed to kind of mirror how the cosmic entities see existence, right? Just a seemingly series of successive moments, but no real differentiation between how much time passes between each individual moment. It's just a series of things that take place. It kind of makes sense. Not a super important thing, but it's good to see that Christopher Cantwell sort of notices this. But of course, at that point, Tony Stark does arrive on Earth. And when he shows up here, it's very reminiscent to how you would expect Galactus to appear, or a character that imposing. Now, it's also kind of feeding into the ego of Tony Stark a little bit. And in fact, what he does with this power is kind of funny here in a little while, because he shrinks down to a more reasonable size, right? That people can kind of comprehend and they don't necessarily find so intimidating. And then in the midst of all that, as he's talking to James Rhodes, there's not really much of a conversation here, right? Like, he's literally there for like 2 seconds. The Avengers show up alongside the Fantastic Four. And the funny thing here is that they don't quite know what to make of Tony Stark. And the reason why is because while Tony has done some things, a lot of them are also familiar with the things that Tony has done, right? So say, for example, the idea of the Infinity Gauntlet. One of the things a lot of you guys may not know is Iron Man's had the Infinity Gauntlet. And in fact, Iron Man got the Infinity Gauntlet off of Parker Robbins, the Hood, when the Hood got the Infinity Gauntlet. Now, of course, the other members of the Illuminati knew what was going on, because Tony Stark taking it and then telling everybody else who was there, these gems need to be taken care of, it's too dangerous, all that kind of stuff, was really him taking it and then the Illuminati splitting the gems among themselves. But the important thing is they know how shady Tony Stark can be. And when you take like the shadiness of Tony Stark and then you combine it with basically godly power, who knows what he's going to do? And that's one of those things where like they start to question, like, what are your motivations here, right? Is Michael Korvac still a threat? Of course, at the end of the day, he's like, Michael Korvac is basically defeated. But when Captain America asked the question, well, what about you? Are you a threat? His response is, well, that sounds awfully loaded. And Steve's like, I'm very concerned. And so in the end, his response response is, well, I mean, can you relax, right? We've all dealt with gods before. Look at Thor, right? It's the exact same 5. And Thor's like, no, we're not, I'm totally different here. This is a whole different thing. And so the big question people have is, what's Tony Stark going to do with this power? And so what he does is he makes this amazing speech, right? This amazing impassioned thing. And he says, okay, well, Korvac was right in wanting harmony, but wrong about how to get there. He believed that he alone knew best. He put himself and his opinions above others. And then he asked the Avengers, he's like, doesn't that sound familiar to you guys? And he says, Korvac was wrong to hoard his intellect, wrong to want to take away free will from everyone else. I had the Infinity Gems once, but I wasn't going to force anything with them, and I won't now either. But then, how does one make something harmonious while preserving the individual? And he says, well, I looked at my own gifts. I'm talking about the things I had before these new powers. I thought of solutions and ideas I've had in the past and how they've gone awry. And I realized something. They didn't work because they were trapped in here in my head. But now, what's in here doesn't have to be trapped inside anymore. It can be shared as a gift. Now, the funny thing about this is that there's a kind of irritable moment that takes place, right? And this is the thing that kind of gives people pause for concern, is that Captain America keeps interrupting Iron Man and saying, wait, like, hold on, man, like, here's the thing. And as Iron Man's trying to make his point, Captain America keeps interrupting him, trying to literally make his case. And the response of Iron Man is, let me finish, right? And just kind of like grows to this huge size. Now understand, this is not Iron Man getting carried away with his power. This is Iron Man being pissed with Captain America, because the point that Iron Man was making up until this moment is that there's a kind of hubris that comes with the Avengers. Yes, they're as much street level heroes as they are the Earth's mightiest heroes, saving Earth from various threats and saving some random guy on the street who's being mugged by somebody else. But there's a hubris in the Avengers in the sense that because they're superheroes and because they've saved the Earth from so many threats and they do good things, they know what's best. And so Captain America, in the eyes of Iron Man, embodies that hubris more than anything else. I'm Captain America. I've been around for a long time. I have great battle strategy and I know how to organize and galvanize the superhero community. Everyone should listen to me, right? That kind of irritation. Now, of course, a lot of it's also just because these guys have just had a sketchy history ever since the events of Civil War. But what Iron Man says here is, my gift is now in all of you. My intellect, my level of aptitude, it's yours. You are all now Stark level geniuses. But it's kind of a funny thing, because the whole question here is, well, what if we don't want it? And he's like, well, I mean, it's too late, right? It's done. You're all now as brilliant as I am. And so is every living person in the city. And he says, I figured we'd start with a small sample size and see how it goes. And he says, I don't want things to get too far ahead, right? I don't want this experiment to be something that I effectively lose control of. And the funny thing here is, Susan asked Reed, she's like, what do you think, Reed? Like, do you feel any different? He's like, actually, I feel like I just became less intelligent. But all across the city of New York, right? Queens, these different places, that you have these arguments that are going on between couples, right? Between people. And as they engage in these arguments, as soon as this power is given, suddenly it's a series of like introspection. Well, I'm saying this to you because I am actually feeling this way, but I'm not telling you I'm feeling this way because, and so on and so forth. It's people kind of coming to terms with what they're really thinking and then voicing what it is they're really thinking. Not only that, it's people becoming geniuses like in the boardroom, offering solutions that hadn't really been given before, right? Throwing out these things like carbon-based nano quadrator that atomizes the hydrogen into particles of energy. And I don't even know what that means. But the thing about this is that people are basically just incredibly intelligent. And this is a really interesting concept, because what this does here is it's Tony Stark showing up to the world and saying, I am not going to make the world better. I'm going to give the world the opportunity to make itself better. I'm going to give people the opportunity, the means, the intelligence to improve the world and to make it a better place. And so it's a genius idea, because what you do is you effectively box people in, right? You box humanity in. You take this section of New York and you say, okay, with everybody becoming more intelligent now, if this place doesn't get better, it's because people don't want it to get better. Because with this level of intelligence, this is going to have to lead to compromise, because people will realize, okay, my particular solution won't work perfectly, but maybe a blending of 5 solutions will, right? Just things along those lines. Now, of course, the funny thing about this is that at that moment, you basically have Big Wheel who just wakes up out of a coma, right? Now, as far as I'm aware, Big Wheel ended up in a coma because, the events of Deadpool and the Mercs for Money #4. I don't really know a whole lot about this guy. I mean, the guy's literally driving like a giant big wheel through the city of New York, right? Just seemingly causing all kinds of crazy commotion and pandemonium. And it looks like he's just using his intelligence to engage in like some villainous schemes. Of course, the entire time this is going on, Iron Man is effectively being yelled at by Patsy Walker, like, are you really sure that this is a good thing to do, right? I mean, you're basically taking what you deem to be the right thing to do and then imposing it across the world and so on and so forth. But then like Big Wheel basically gets their attention. And this guy's just like running through and causing all kinds of crazy things. And the funny thing about that is like Patsy Walker's like, is Big Wheel typically a technologically organized maniac wielding selenium encoded infrared signal beams? And I understood some of those words. And like the response of Iron Man is like, no, he's usually just a guy in a big wheel. And here's the funny thing about this is that once they finally catch up to him and once they finally stop him, they realize that while he does shoot Patsy Walker in order to make her get out of the way, which is a kind of a dick thing to do, it's a villainous thing to do, Iron Man, of course, brings the whole thing to a halt and then realizes that what Big Wheel was doing was solving the problem of traffic issues in New York. He was solving the problem of gridlock, right? Like he literally fixed all the traffic problems in New York City, that people can basically travel throughout the entirety of the city as you would in a normal place, right? In a normal location. He says, hey, this guy just solved traffic congestion. That's truly groundbreaking, man. That's a pretty big deal. And so it's one of those funny things is because this is how some people are basically going to use their powers, right? And so as a result of this, what you get here is Patsy Walker screaming at Iron Man, right? And where Iron Man's trying to plead the case and saying like, look, like what I'm doing here is working. You're welcome. Like, what else do you want from me? Her response is, how about some foresight? The world doesn't simply become instantly better just because we all think like you do now. And of course, that pisses off Iron Man, who in turn says, even with the incredible capacity of my mind, you whimper with small-minded doubt. I will fix this entire world. Just watch me. And in that moment, Patsy Walker's like, there's nothing to do. And so Patsy Walker basically just walks off. And so as a result of this, she goes to the only person that she really can go to. When you're dealing with someone with just incredible levels of intelligence and power, only one man is capable of bringing that person down. Someone of equal intelligence and equal aspirations for high levels of power. She goes to Victor Von Doom and says, you need to be the one to bring Iron Man back down to our level. Well, in all honesty, you need to be the one to stop Iron Man from trying to fix the world. But with that being said, guys, we're going to bring this video to an end. Thank you all for watching, and I will catch you all later. Peace.